Lady invites you to join us in celebrating the season of giving by being part of the solution. As we enjoy great food, family, warmth, and well wishes in whatever our festive tradition may be, we share the beauty of the season by reaching out to the less fortunate. Please help us to help others with the KBLA Cover the Houseless Cozy Community Coat and Blanket Drive. All you have to do is drop off new or clean, gently used winter coats and blankets in the KBLA lobby during business hours. Now through December 20th, all of the coats and blankets will be donated to unsheltered individuals and families experiencing houselessness. Simply bring your donation to 4434 Crenshaw Boulevard in Los Angeles, near Vernon Avenue, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. weekdays. That's 4434 Crenshaw in historic Leimert Park. During the holidays and every day, let's remember, we keep us safe. We keep us warm. We are the safety net, and together we can cover the unsheltered. Get caught up in the spirit of the season, the spirit of love. Make a difference with your friends at KBLA Talk 1580.
Your chance of running is empty. Believe it, like a chip slipped in. I'm so on the low and taking Navy SEAL to get me when I surface. If not chips, then vengeance to purpose. On your team, I pull the curtain, a beautiful hurting. Till my eyes see the blood, that mean the creeps start working. Cats never learn to let their eyes keep
Prodigy.
Pumping your X5 working.
Mobb Deep, that summer, what was it, 95? When Mobb Deep was like the first album? That was a moment. That was a real moment in hip hop. I felt that. And of course, I feel like, I don't know where it's on the list, but Lil' Kim, Mobb Deep, Quiet Storm remix is definitely top 10 for me. I don't know what number, probably 10. I don't really know what else is on the list because I told you my things change all the time, but that's like one of my favorite features, one of my favorite songs, just raw. And I feel like Kim really ripped that verse. Do we know who wrote that for her? Just wondering.
I think her verse on I Can Love You with Mary J was harder than Quiet Storm.
Those are like two of my favorites.
Yeah.
Dipping on your ninja. We're going to forgive Kim for combining a Ninja and a Honda. They were two different brands, but, it worked. You have something to add.
Before we bring Brother Kwamel back on, I just wanted to say, first off, the conversation right there was dope. But I feel like hip-hop has always been a competitive thing. And I know here in America, I feel like we value competition because we value the individual. And I think that's one of the reasons why, we naturally tend to pit people against each other. You know what I'm saying? Ideally, not in a negative way, but it's like sport. You know what I mean? Or we got the newest female MC. We're going to go ahead and just compare that person to, the last greatest MC. Michael Jordan, we got LeBron James. We're going to compare LeBron to Jordan. That's just what it is.
I mean, I think, too, everyone has their own personal favorites, things they like. This is my question, though. We talk about competitiveness and we're targeting each other. This is for you, Kwamel, and anyone that wants to participate. So my question is, in theory, though, haven't women always been a target for men in hip-hop? Not women as a whole, but a certain type of woman. EPMD, Gold Digger, We Don't Love Them, whatever, a certain type of woman. If we're talking about the competitive thing and we're talking about the shots that are going back and forth between men and women, hasn't a certain type of woman always been a target in hip hop music? In theory, if you think about it, the gold digger, the one, the hoe, the one, find them, F them and flee them, all of those things. These are all songs or lyrics that are a part of hip hop. Women were very much told they were disposable, that you just there to be a hole for me to get through to the next thing. I ain't got no love for you. I ain't spending no bread on you. And I certainly don't respect you. So from that perspective, isn't the competition, to a degree, And again, they've said it. I will recognize it as someone who, like I said, wholeheartedly, I would be bopping my head to all of that stuff too. Yep, yep. But I also would turn around and be like,
Right, man.
Latifah's had it up to here, or, whatever else. So I felt like I reserved my right to play in both spaces. But truly,
Okay.
hasn't that you think about Positive K, even though he was rapping against himself? I got a man in the
Oh boy.
disses, the Vapors. What was that
Oh
about?
my God.
I just gave
Okay.
you a lot of errors, a lot of different parts
Yes,
of
you
the
did.
country that all like featured that theme along it. I got you on the ropes. Go ahead.
Okay. Oh my God. Yeah, you threw a whole buffet on one plate. That plate just cracked. The table cracked. The floor probably cracked right after. It's like, holy shnikey, is anything left? Now, so I want to get back to the competitive art,
Okay.
because that's an important thing to speak about as well. Now, okay, I want to address this in a way that requires some meditation. The disrespecting of women, because it's not that it's good. It's not that it's good. A thing happened in the 80s. We were children, or not yet born. There was a thing where, I mean, of course, Ronald Reagan puts out the whole thing about welfare queens, so that goes
Right.
into the culture and gets put on us and our women. Also, however, because a lot of new money got made in crack,
Hmm.
it was a thing of the drug dealers apparently spoiling their girlfriends or these women that they wanted to woo, and male rappers were peeping that and saying, "Oh my God!" Like I go to it. Like, I use an example. I was talking about this with one of my older brethren last week. 3 times dope, funky dividends.
Hmm.
You know, the new wave 80s has everything reversible. Instead of walks, you drive a Cadillac convertible. Two's bound to kill you. All you need is one. They're constantly bugging to get her hair done. You're looking for your wallet, but your girlfriend's got this. All like the whole thing was about getting like just basically getting sweated for your pockets.
Hmm.
And
It's for the money. It's
someone
always
saying,
for the money.
like, when I was with this other person, I had it all. You ain't giving me nothing. Like, like, okay, so there's no love. It's just I'm just here to you're just here for me to wreck my whole check on your desires. Like, that's a problem. That was problematic. So it was their brothers at first were problematizing it, but then as the free speech battles were getting won, and you were seeing the 2 Live Crew, the NWA, the Too Short, the Ghetto Boys, stuff like that. Then it got a little more disrespectful. Then it was just outright reckless. Our sisters were all the bees. Our sisters did this and that sexually. They were painted all these foul ways because suddenly they had this whole slew of people that were like, "Ooh, I get to cuss. Ooh, I get to talk crazy. Oh, why not just be as outrageous as possible? Because all that positive stuff ain't welcome on the air. I want to make some money. I'm gonna act the GD fool, and the streets are gonna love it." And now all you hear, or a whole lot of what you hear, I should say, if it ain't Kiss FM bubblegum stuff, is everything's F this N, F this B. It's constant. Take this drug, get this money to make it rain for some foolishness, because I'm watching all my languages right now because I
Hmm.
cannot say these street words on the air. I know better,
Salute,
but a lot of people
salute,
don't. A lot of
salute,
people don't.
salute.
Let me make this perfect example. Then I'm get back to the comparative point. For instance, watch this, Joe, and watch this, Andy. Remember when Mind Playing Tricks on Me came out?
Hmm.
Super dope version versus the album of the cuss words on it. When I wake, I don't see the mother F. On the radio and on the video, Scarface would suddenly paint a much better picture. It'd be like, okay, when I wake, I hear a car burning rubber. Like, oh, something must have been happening. He's suddenly telling a greater story. And Willie D, instead of trying to fit these cuss words in, if it's going down, let's get over it. He's letting the words breathe. They're doing much better things on the clean version of that record. Versus after a while, there suddenly was no even worrying about making a clean version, and then you hear half the record silenced on the radio. which was silly. It made no sense at all, but that was suddenly an okay standard. No one was held to a high standard anymore because that just went out the window because, oh, free speech, we just get to cuss. So no one held themselves to a high standard anymore. And that was the problem. It was a problem of no longer having the standards and practices there. And now back to the competitiveness. It was not that the competitiveness needed to be a zero-sum game, like, oh, if I can't have the title, no one can. It was the competitiveness of saying, oh, wow, okay, this dope record came out. I'm going to see that record and raise you this record right here. Now step to this. So it wasn't that they had to dish you. It was that they came with a record that said, I got this illa record. Now what's happening? I'm like when I come with this record, you in trouble. Unless you go back to the lab, step to it with even crazier record, or go back to the lab, step with a crazier dance, crazier beatbox, crazier fashion, something that just wakes us all up and takes us to another level. That's the competitiveness that was really happening with the hip hop.
Okay.
And that's kind of not a thing anymore because the hip hop has been taken out of it. And I don't want to get all preachy with it, but I mean, imagine like starting from gangster rap. If Ice Cube didn't go dissing dancers and was actually okay with the dancers, if the dancers had stuck around, imagine how much hip hop you would see or feel listening to these gangster, crunk, trap, now drill records. You probably would be like, oh, okay, now I get it. But with that gone, it's just all this mindless, overly street, overly drugged out, overly sexed rap. And it's like it's not rap with skills. It's just okay. I'm gonna do this mindless thing, and it gets the job done, and it makes people shake something. But it's not the hip hop feel anymore.
Andy,
I'm off my soapbox. Andy, if you want to kill me, go for it. If you want to kill me, go for it.
I'm not gonna kill you at all. You know what I'm saying? I'm give homage to my elders. I know you're not that much older than me, but
we're the same age bracket. Go on with that, man. Stop that, bro.
Most def. But I think what you're saying is, I feel like me and Jill, we talked about this several times, and I think there's a lack of an appreciation of the actual art behind hip hop. This is a hustle for these cats now. I don't know what changed, what changed or whatnot, but they don't have an appreciation for the art because just like you said, you come up with a dope record, I'm gonna go up in the lab and I'm gonna hit you off with a better record. And at the same time too, I think our attention spans, I feel victim to that too right now. You know what I'm saying? Like our attention spans are just not there like it used to be. Waka Flocka years ago, I guess in reference to Nas, I don't want to hear that dictionary rap. Don't know. So with that being said, people are just gonna be like, I'm gonna just keep it straightforward because a lot of if you're gonna be extra creative, it's gonna go over people's heads, and people don't want to think nowadays. Mm-mm. That's why we got Instagram reels and shorts and stuff like that. It's different time.
Yeah, man. I mean, I started to notice that, and I won't be on too long. I can cut me off after this segment, but I noticed that when The Source had given AC Alone's Book of Human Language record a 2.5 and said that he was too creative for his own good. Now, maybe he might have overreached with a couple of things, even though a lot of people still love that record. He might have overreached with a couple of things, but it basically sent a signal, and this was back in '98. It basically sent a signal like that kind of came off as, no, it's not just that it should be simpler and you get the job done and you'll be fine. It literally kind of did send a signal of dumb it down that people kind of started running with. And that became a huge thing that I think we just never recovered from. But I thank y'all for your time.
Well, okay, you're going to go. I actually have one more question for you, but we have to go to break. So, you're gone. I'll ask the question, and you can comment on the chat. I will ask this anyway before we go to break. But what I want to know is we talk a lot about the music being done down, the artistry being done down to be success. Is there any way that we can bring the audience up? This doesn't just go for hip hop. This goes for things like, a lot of people complain about things like Tyler Perry and his content and stuff like that. And one of the questions that I've been asking myself lately is, does the audience want to be raised up to there? And if not, what can you do as an artist to kind of bring them up to that point? We'll talk more on that on the other side. You were locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580.
trending topics, and the hottest happenings. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
My ride smells just right, just right, just right, just right.
Y'all gotta try that Febreze car.
Just right, just right, just right. La 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 la. With up to 40 days of consistency, all over Febreze car clips right on your vent. You know my car's my happy place. Keep that smile on my face when it smells just right, just right, just right. Breathe happy Febreze. La 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 la.
I'm getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20.
So am I, because I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine. It can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles is a nonprofit law firm that protects and advances the rights of the most underserved, leveling the playing field and ensuring that everyone can have access to the justice system. Every year, LAFLA provides free, high-quality legal services to more than 100,000 people living in poverty across greater Los Angeles. Their unique combination of neighborhood offices, self-help centers at courthouses, and domestic violence clinics puts Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles on the front lines in vulnerable communities and at the forefront of change. LAFLA's expert team of attorneys, paralegals, and support staff works to provide direct representation, offer counsel and advice, provide referrals, and educate the community about their legal rights through workshops and seminars. With locations all over LA, you can access their services or volunteer to help no matter where you live. And if you have an urgent issue, call 213-235-0060. That's 213-235-0060. To get legal help, make a donation, or volunteer, visit lafla.org. lafla.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Keeping you informed, entertained, and always ahead of the curve. This is RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
You were locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. You know, we love our hip-hop conversations, and since we're in the after hours, it's the perfect time for it. Fahima in the chat says, when people like Kendrick Lamar and Nipsey Hussle come along and are so well received, it shows people are hungry for more substance. Here's the thing. Are they, though? Here's one thing. Nipsey was beloved, right? Especially, you know, here on the West Coast, right? We were deep. But how many people really didn't pick up Nipsey's movement and really understand what it was, unfortunately, until after he passed, to really get into the lessons that he was saying? Because where was Nipsey's #1 album while he was alive? What were those sales when he did, because remember, Nipsey only released one album. Everything else was mixtapes or the album, you know, that he did. Why do I always forget? Not Victory Lap. No, that's the album. Crenshaw. That's the one that was the Mailbox Money one, right? What was the Mailbox Money one? I'm getting them all mixed up now. I'm confusing myself.
So Crenshaw came before Mailbox Money.
Okay.
Crenshaw was... Technically, it was still a mixtape, but because it was so much original content on there, you could have called that an album. That was the album that he sold for $100.
Okay, Crenshaw was the $100 one. Okay. So, my thing is, I feel like Nipsey was definitely appreciated, and I think he was on the cusp of something. But, unfortunately, tragic circumstances made it so that we'll never really know. We know he left an impact, and we know that his legacy is seen in various ways. And the thing to me that bigger than what Nipsey did as far as rap, because obviously I love Nipsey. There are songs that are my favorite long time. We going back to the jump sample if you want to take it back to, real heads that know.
Hustle in the house.
Right. So the thing that I feel like his lasting impression was about one, reading, getting people like guys in the hood, the types that you don't necessarily think about as far as educating themselves, learning more about business. I know we talk a lot about scams and things of that nature, but Nipsey had a, some books that he talked about.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? That put people on. It wasn't like he was trying to sell these books to you. These were just things that benefited him, and he put it out there and shared that aspect of it.
He left us with a philosophy.
He did.
The marathon continues.
And so I just feel like from that perspective, what he brought to hip hop was greater than what he did as a rap artist, to put it down in most basic terms, even though it's overall to the hip hop culture and things of that nature. So he was building himself up, but obviously, when Nip came out, we were coming off trap, right? Atlanta trap music, which sounds a little different from what he was presenting. So the West Coast wasn't on top at that time. We were making our way back, but it wasn't about our music and our scene. He was making a statement and known for himself, along with K Dot and Schoolboy Q and those type of others. And we've had our moments, but Nip came up on the heels of the jerk movement. If you really, really think about it, he was outside then. They were going. He was doing his thing separately. So I just feel like we say we want a lot of substance and we're dying for it, but still, look at the fact. J. Cole got his first #1 through Drake, right? And I'm not there's no shade in that. There's no like anything or whatever, but I feel like when you're presented with artists that are, and a general statement, no one specific, that are a little more of substance, that, they got your party jams, but they're going to have you think a little bit too. People are like, I don't know, especially right now, because they're so not into that. Because to your point, I think a lot of things to people are just hustles, especially because of the rise of the social media influencer to a certain degree. I think because a lot of people, regular people in essence, found a path to promote things for brands and make money. And because the internet sort of makes it easy to jump in and out of different things, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but there's no penalty to not being committed to one thing. We all want to expand our horizons. We all want to, try some different things, and it's encouraged, but mastery isn't something that's valued in the same way in this current era that it has been before. It's considered, I guess, in some ways boring, right? Or just old school in general, because we can do so many different things. Why would we not? Why would we not take advantage of that? It's just like, we always see the approach, multiple streams of income. Well, how? Do you know what I mean? Of course, we can think of various ways, but can we master all of those ways to keep things in and keep things coming? And something is going to lose in quality or in effort or in focus with that approach.
I think also, we live in a microwave society now. We're able to make music on our iPhones.
Yep.
Back in the day, I'm sure you had to scrounge up a couple dollars
to go buy that Casio keyboard with the 30-second sample.
You feel me? Or you got to go travel to the studio to actually go put in the work. You know what I mean? You could be on a flight or something and record music nowadays. So I think just the instant aspect of things, it makes it just kind of easier, you know what I'm saying, to just pump stuff out. And that's where I think the value is lost, because it's like you're not really working for it like how it was back in the day.
Nope. I mean, it's so not that it's easy and not that it's guaranteed to happen, but I do think there's a much easier path to fame and even, the money associated with it more so than I can remember in my lifetime, you know? I mean, just from even a basic perspective, if you think about it, look at the whole construct of YouTube, for example. Anybody can get on YouTube and have effectively their own TV network. If you really want to be honest, if you're really thinking about it, they can put in the program. This is what I think you want to see. So it's a very different world. It's a very different order. Quamel says, same issue with Jay Dilla, the dead rappers get better promotion thing. I will say that. So let me ask you, because he is someone that I consider did not seek out the limelight per se, wasn't trying to be, and he came up in the era of the super producer, right? Where we started getting producer tags. I know Rodney Jerkins takes credit as the first producer to put his tag on songs. I don't know. I think I kind of want to give that distinction maybe to Bad Boy in some type of way, although they didn't brand the Hitman. Think the concept of it, but maybe, I don't know, I'm wrong, but I feel like Dilla one didn't seek that type of sort of, revere from the audience. So I don't think that was in his personality type or what he put out. The other thing to that is I think their musical choices where we slotted in, especially during his heyday, coming, I guess, off of the neo soul era, in between whatever that in between was, where R&B was sort of becoming more fragmented in the way. I don't feel like that aspect of hip hop lended itself as much to the braggadocious thing, I just think it gave different vibe, different energy. And even though hip hop is very much about, bragging, competition, standing up for yourself, I don't feel like that was what Dilla represented in his music, in the way that it was put together, even in just how the tracks he presented and the type of music he laid out there. It was more about the music, the complexity of it, and not just being hip hop, or not putting a Dilla sound stamp. Is there a Dilla sound? I don't, and I'm going to be honest, I am not the most educated on his catalog and his productions. I know things, but I've never really done a deep dive into it. I do know that, he is someone that is highly respected and people speak a lot about his work, but I'm not as familiar with it. I know some of the basics. When we come forward, we'll get into more on this topic. And of course, there's some comments in the chat that we're going to get to. And we got a couple of more topics and headlines, plus the interview with Phaedra Parks of Married to Medicine Season 10. All of that and more. You are locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. News and sports on the other side.
Keep playing with that fire, and that is how it burn. With semi-autos, 1 foot is in the grave. Be giving all of y'all something to be afraid of. Strong mother, but when they ever learn, keep playing with that fire, and that is how it burn. With semi-autos, 1 foot is in the grave. Be giving all of y'all something to be afraid of.
Let me tell you how it's going down. It's on now. So love me now, they wanna hate me now. I'm that same with the just holding the spot down. Except I'm pushing the
Infusing a sense of fun and entertainment in every episode. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. The group responsible for naming birds across the Americas is renaming all birds named after people. The American Ornithological Society says it's because a lot of those people turned out to have problematic pasts that can distract from appreciation of the birds themselves. Examples include Audubon Shearwater, named after John Audubon, famous bird illustrator and slave owner who opposed abolition. New names will be more descriptive about a bird's habitat or physical features. Several organizations gathered in Baltimore to call for a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Members of Jewish Voice for Peace, the Black Alliance for Peace, and Baltimore Palestine Solidarity marched from Penn Station to the office of Maryland's 7th District Congressman Kwesi Mfume, asking that he sign the ceasefire resolution demanding de-escalation, a ceasefire, and more humanitarian aid in Gaza. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Calling all night owls, Buffalo Wild Wings is open late. Fill up on some tasty apps with an ice cold tall beer starting at $4. Late night food and drinks start at $4 from 10 till close at B-Dubs. Limited time at participating locations. Offers, days, and times may vary. Drink responsibly. Void where prohibited. Tax and fees extra.
Environmental justice, pollution, and climate. In Los Angeles and across America, people of color are suffering and dying from disproportionate health impacts on a planet that has less than 10 years to prevent irreversible damage. Heat illnesses, respiratory illnesses, water-related illnesses, food system impacts, insect-related diseases, Black maternal health, and mental health effects. As the impacts of climate change mount, millions of vulnerable people, our people, are going to bear the brunt of these extreme environmental events, which will likely lead to forced displacement, loss of cultural identity, and other related risks. These realities are as real as rain. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details about the most progressive multimedia and live events campaign any Black media outlet has ever undertaken to combat the climate catastrophe. Experts, events, empowerment. It's all on the way from unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We don't black down. We level up.
Level up, 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 level up.
In Big Tobacco's Fantasyland, children are the future. Here, tobacco companies are committed to higher education, offering scholarships to students who submit essays about the benefits of vaping. The tobacco industry even sponsors summer camps for kids. Don't worry, the tobacco-sponsored programs have been linked to leaving your kids more interested in smoking. In Big Tobacco's Fantasyland, the world's deadliest industry is your child's friend. See reality at undo.org.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions because we've got your black. Listen up. If you're one of the more than 100,000 California tenants who were rejected or delayed when applying for COVID rental assistance, you've got a second chance. Under the terms of a new settlement, California's Housing and Community Development Department agreed to audit its past denials. The program ended in March 2022, but the advocacy groups Alliance of Californians for Community Empowerment, Policy Link, and Strategic Actions for a Just Economy sued the department. According to the coalition's analysis of state data, the department rejected nearly 30% of all applicants. Under the settlement, the department agreed to clear all renters in the pipeline within 6 months. The settlement applies to anyone who sought assistance from the state's Housing is Key program before April 1st, 2022, whose applications is pending or was denied after June 6, 2022. Tenants who have questions about the status of their application can call the hotline at 833-430-2122. That's 833-430-2122. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Discover, this is Danny.
Hi, it's Jen Coolidge. I just want to thank you for making me feel so special. I earned cash back on debit for my dinner party groceries.
That's great. But with Discover Cashback Debit, we give everyone cash back on everyday purchases. Anything else I can help you with?
Are you hungry? 'Cause everyone left after the asparagus sorbet.
Introducing Discover Cashback Debit, a checking account with cash back. It pays to Discover. Eligibility and terms at discover.com/cashbackdebit. Discover Bank, member FDIC.
Some people won't give you the real talk on drugs, but it's time we know the facts. Fentanyl is killing people. It's a powerful opioid, often made illegally and commonly mixed with illicit drugs. It can even be pressed into counterfeit pills that resemble prescription medications. Just 2 milligrams, about the size of a few grains of sand, can potentially be lethal. This isn't an ad to scare you, but it is an ad to make you think twice. Get the facts. Go to realdealonfentanyl.com. This message is brought to you by the Ad Council.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. Curating the most compelling stories and delivering them straight to your ears. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
Welcome back in to the final, we're getting down to the wire, y'all, of RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580, Hour 3. We're talking hip-hop, we're talking sounds, we're talking what changed, what caused the switch up. And so my comment before we came forward was that I don't feel like Jay Dilla has a sound like how, you know, Teddy Riley had New Jack Swing and you immediately knew that sound. Dre had his West Coast, you know, G-Funk, and you immediately knew it if you heard it. With Dilla, one thing I will say, I do believe that Dilla is a throwback, kind of in the vein of, and I don't know if this is blasphemous, so y'all don't kill me, but of like Pete Rock as far as producer and stuff like that, where heavily invoked that soul feeling, the deep 70s soul, you know, whatever. I do feel like I know that about Dilla's songs, but when I'm saying a sound, I mean an identifiable one. Kwamel put in the chat, right? He said that he gave some examples of what he felt that, his sound was. And he used the Far Side's Drop, A Tribe Called Quest, Find a Way, and Comments The Light. In Any Slum Village record. He said he put Detroit on the map. But ironically enough, outside of Slum Village, you named an LA group, a Midwest, and a New York group. And I feel like when you listen to each of those songs, though you like them, it is not necessarily identifiable that they come from the same producer. And I'm not saying they should be, but again, during the era when he was coming up and coming to pass, it was all about the super producer, Rodney Jerkins, Timbaland, like that had these sounds and these tags. And though again, this is not in any way, shape, or form a diss to Dilla. This is not saying it was lesser. I'm just saying I don't feel like it was as carved out. But I also feel like that was purposely done, right? Like you think about a record like The Far Side. He produced Passing Me By, their first single. And shout out to The Far Side. I think I've shared this on there. They met as when they were dancers. I was still dancing at that time too. They used to be like my big brothers. Used to be in the same competition. So shout out to them. But I feel like when you think about Passing Me By, that very much sounds like the sound of the West Coast. For example, at that time period, you think about This Is How We Chill from 93 to Infinity, that was out around then, that I felt like had a similar instrumentation, a similar vibe or whatever. There's a couple of other things that were on that. We were heavy into that jazz sound or whatever. And I feel like Dilla touched on that, but I think there were other producers that kind of touched on it too, so it could be confused, Again, not a diss, just showing what I feel is the difference between him as a producer during that time period and what the others were doing. I think it's a choice. I don't think it's a bad thing. That is just the way I help. Quamel says, bear in mind, Dilla only had his run from 93 to his death in '06. Correct, but that's not a short run. That's 13 years. And a lot of people don't get half of that run as far as producers. Think about the Hitman and Stevie J and stuff. They put in work in the 90s. Stevie J is on some classic songs, and then that stuff was just done over. And I can't say it's because Stevie J didn't have more to offer. I think he's extremely talented, but his era was done. That moment was done. So in some ways, I do applaud Dilla for being able to span that time frame effortlessly. And again, I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just an observation on my part. I think that if you ask an average, music fan or hip hop head, they couldn't tell you his sound, right? They might be able to know songs that he's produced and contributed to, but I don't know if people feel like that. Again, not necessarily a bad thing, just an observation, especially as to what was happening in that era. But I also think that it was purposely done because there was two movements happening, right? You had your Jill Scotts, your D'Angelos, your Erykah Badu's you could put in there. Just, the whole neo soul sort of vibe thing that was thought of as separate of R&B, not quite in the hip hop vein, Even if you think about Guru and with Jazzmatazz and things like that. I don't know. Forensic Accountant says, you want the Dilla sound? Listen to the Donuts Project. Apollo Brown is a continuation of the Detroit sound. So that's something I'm going to have to add to the list. Definitely would check that out. I just think that if we're bringing it back to current times, we had very complicated music then. We don't have a balance. I think right now, to Andy's point, it is all about a hustle, and that leads to a lot of stripped down things, a lot of simple, over and out, just, copy. Even the samples aren't complicated. I don't know if that's asking too much or looking for too much, but I think the samples are overly simplistic when they utilize them. But we will see what happens with hip hop. Listen, coming up, I told you I had an interview with Phaedra Parks. She will be making her debut this weekend on Married to Medicine season 10. And let me tell you, I've already seen the episode. There's a lot happening on episode 1. So if you are a fan of this show and of Phaedra Parks, make sure that you are watched in, because we have to have our what to watch for the weekend. And stay tuned for my interview with her. We talked about the upcoming season. We talked about a little bit about her new boo and how she is making the connections to this cast. We talked about her new business that she is going to be discussing on there. And she also shared with me how she believes that this cast is the smartest cast that she has ever been a part of. So I don't know if that's shade to the housewives or what, but she definitely said that the conversations are different when you're sitting with the winners of this group. So make sure that you are looking out for that. Here's a tip, though. A tip. Let me calm down. I'm excited. Here's a tip. Make sure that you have the app downloaded or that you're listening, because it will not be available on the YouTube stream. So if you want to hear the Phaedra interview, you got to download the stuff. Forensic Accountant says Cleo's Apartment is an Apollo Brown banger and a tribute to the classic Marvin Gaye track from the Troubled Man soundtrack. I'm going to have to get into that. Quamel says he's going to have to get into that too. I'm going to do a little investigation, because for whatever reason, I think too, no surprises here, the neo soul movement, I would jump in and jump out, but I wasn't ever gonna live there. Why? Because I like a little bit of the shiny suit grind stuff too. I'm multifaceted, so I want it all. I want to take it all in and then step back and relax and observe. Maybe that's the wrong approach, but that is my approach. Listen, I thank you so much for tuning in to RSVP with Jill Munroe this week. On the other side, it will be our interview with Phaedra Parks from Married to Medicine, Season 10. Remember, if you are watching this on YouTube, make sure you download the app so you can catch the interview. It is my Friday, y'all, so thank you for locking in. I will see you next week. And on the other side of the interview, on the other side of that, will be the best of KBLA. So make sure you lock in. Thank you guys. Have an amazing night and check out that Phaedra interview.
RSVP with Jill Munroe is your go-to show for staying in the know. More engaging conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
At Susan G. Komen, we believe that ending breast cancer needs all of us working together. Because if you've just been diagnosed and don't know where to turn, we've got you. If you can't afford the treatment you need, we've got you. And if you are driven to honor the loved one you've just lost, we have a place for you here. Because of you, we're supporting those who need help today while tirelessly searching for tomorrow's cures. Visit Komen.org and be a part of our Susan G. Komen community today.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, Maisha Cairo here, KBLA, live at Chase Bank on Crenshaw and Vernon for the In This Together tour with female business owners, a day of empowerment, community panels, and best of all, tips on building business from marketing to capital. I was able to speak with Kate Luzio, former banking executive and now owner of Luminary, who partnered with Chase for this tour. She makes it her business to build community for business owners.
Yeah, so I